The studio was quieter than Prince Harry expected. Not the polite quiet of anticipation, not the comfortable hush that settles before applause. This was a different kind of silence. Dense. Intentional. The kind that didn't dissipate when someone spoke, but absorbed every word and held on to it. No audience seats stretched beyond the cameras. No murmured laughter. No warm-up chatter. Just a low wooden table positioned under white studio lights, two microphones angled carefully toward their speakers, and the constant, almost imperceptible hum of electricity overhead. Harry adjusted his jacket as he took his seat. It was a small movement, almost unconscious, but it betrayed a familiar instinct. Prepare. Compose. Perform. Across from him sat Alistair Campbell, already settled, posture loose but deliberate. One hand rested near a thin stack of notes. The other hovered lightly near the microphone stand, not gripping it, not fidgeting, just there. Campbell wasn't smiling. He wasn't frowning either. His expression suggested patience. The kind that waits without pressure. The kind that doesn't rush you toward a mistake because it knows you'll get there on your own. Harry glanced at the glass of water beside him. He didn't drink. He never did at the beginning. He'd done dozens of interviews like this. Podcasts, televised sit-downs, long-form conversations designed to feel intimate and unguarded. Spaces where he could finally tell his truth. Spaces where the rules were familiar. Empathy first. Validation early. Pushback softened, if it appeared at all. This felt different. "Thank you for doing this," Campbell began, voice calm, measured. "Not warm. Not cold. I know you don't always feel the media gives you a fair hearing." Harry nodded, relief easing through his shoulders just slightly. "That's an understatement," he said, a faint smile touching his mouth. "But conversations like this matter." Campbell inclined his head. "They do. Especially when influence and responsibility are involved." Harry didn't catch it. Not yet. The opening minutes unfolded gently. Almost deceptively so. Campbell asked about California. About stepping away from royal duties. About what it meant to raise children outside the constant surveillance of palace life. Harry spoke smoothly, confidence flowing easily. These were stories he knew by heart. He talked about trauma. About tabloid cruelty. About the suffocating weight of expectation. At times his voice softened. At others it sharpened, shaped by years of repetition. Each sentence polished until it felt unassailable. Campbell listened. Truly listened. No interruptions. No raised eyebrows. No counterpoints. Just silence after each answer. Harry filled it. "I didn't leave because I wanted attention," he said at one point. "I left because I wanted peace." Campbell nodded, jotting something down. "Peace," he repeated quietly. "That's an interesting word." Harry smiled faintly. "It's an important one." Campbell leaned back just slightly. "You've spoken often about stepping away from power," he said. "From the institution." Harry's shoulders squared instinctively. "Yes. Absolutely." "And yet," Campbell continued, tone unchanged, "you remain one of the most influential public figures in the world." Harry paused. "Well," he said carefully, "public attention isn't something you can just turn off." "Of course," Campbell replied. "But attention isn't the same as influence." A fraction of a frown crossed Harry's face. Campbell pressed gently. "You've written books. Given interviews. Released documentaries. All of which shape public opinion about the monarchy, the media, even British society itself." Harry shifted in his chair. "That's not influence," he said. "That's telling my story." Campbell didn't argue. Instead, he asked softly, "Do you believe stories are neutral?" The question landed heavier than it sounded. Harry exhaled through his nose. I believe stories can heal, he replied. They can expose harm. Campbell nodded. And can they harm? A beat. Harry hesitated, just long enough to be noticeable. They can, he admitted, if they're dishonest. Campbell's pen stopped moving. And who decides that? He asked. Harry's jaw tightened slightly. People know the truth when they hear it. Campbell looked up now, meeting Harry's eyes fully for the first time. Do they? He asked. Or do they recognize conviction? The temperature in the room shifted. Not dramatically. Subtly. Harry leaned forward, hands clasped. I've lived this, he said. I don't need to convince anyone. I know what happened to me. I don't doubt your experience. Campbell replied. I'm interested in what you do with it. Harry blinked. What do you mean? You speak often about escaping the institution, Campbell said. About rejecting its power structures. Harry nodded, cautious now. And yet, Campbell continued, you still speak as someone shaped by it. You frame arguments with moral authority derived from the very system you claim to have left. That's unfair, Harry said sharply. Campbell raised a hand slightly, not defensively, but to slow the moment. I'm not accusing, he said. I'm observing. Harry leaned back, crossing his arms. Sometimes observation is accusation. That's true, Campbell replied. Which is why clarity matters. Harry glanced toward the technician's booth, then back. I came here to have a conversation, he said. Not to be psychoanalyzed. And I came here, Campbell said without missing a beat, to understand how power speaks when it claims to have renounced itself. Silence. Not awkward. Not hostile. Exposed. Harry uncrossed his arms, then crossed them again, tighter this time. You're twisting my words. I haven't touched them yet, Campbell said. Harry swallowed. The microphones captured everything. A breath. A shift. A crack, barely visible, but real. For the first time. Since the conversation began, Prince Harry looked less like a guest and more like someone being examined. The studio lights hummed softly overhead. And somewhere beneath the calm, something began to tighten. The silence didn't dissolve. It thickened. Prince Harry felt it before he understood it, the way the air in the studio seemed to settle lower, pressing closer to the table, the microphones, his chest. Silence like this wasn't empty. It was expectant. Waiting. Alistair Campbell didn't rush to fill it. He simply watched. Harry shifted in his chair, then stilled himself, aware of the movement only after it happened. His fingers tapped once against the edge of the table before he folded his hands together, interlocking them tightly, as if anchoring himself in place. He was used to tension. Interviews turned sharp all the time. But this wasn't the familiar clash of opinions or the predictable hostility of headlines in human form. This felt procedural. Methodical. Let me be clear, Campbell said at last, voice calm, deliberate. I'm not questioning your pain. Harry nodded quickly. Good. I'm questioning the function of that pain in public discourse. Harry frowned. What does that even mean? Campbell leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on the arms of his chair. The movement was small, but it changed the geometry of the room. You speak about trauma, he said. And you speak about accountability, often in the same breath. Harry straightened instinctively. As I should. Possibly, Campbell replied. But accountability usually runs in two directions. Harry's eyes narrowed. I've taken responsibility for my decisions. Have you? Campbell asked quietly. Harry opened his mouth, then stopped. The pause was brief, but it was there. Yes, he said finally. I walked away. I gave up titles. I gave up protection. I paid a price. Campbell nodded, as if noting a point rather than contesting it. And yet, he continued, you continue to shape narratives about people who cannot respond. Harry stiffened. My family can respond whenever they like. Campbell didn't challenge that immediately. Instead, he asked, do you believe silence is always a choice? The question landed heavier than the others. Harry hesitated. In their position? Yes. So when a powerful institution chooses silence, it's strategy, Campbell said. Harry shrugged. And when an individual speaks publicly, repeatedly, globally, Campbell continued, it's truth. Harry's jaw tightened. You're framing this unfairly. I'm framing it symmetrically, Campbell replied. Harry leaned forward. Forearms resting on his knees. Let's stop pretending this is neutral. You've advised governments. You know how power works. Campbell smiled faintly. Exactly. So don't act like I'm the one wielding it, Harry snapped. Campbell waited until Harry finished. Until the last word had nowhere left to go. Then he spoke. Power isn't only institutional, he said. It's reputational. Emotional. Narrative. Harry shook his head. You're making it sound like I'm manipulating people. I'm saying, Campbell replied evenly, that stories persuade, even when they're sincere. Harry exhaled sharply. I never wanted persuasion. I wanted understanding. And you got it, Campbell said. In abundance. Harry blinked. Did I? Campbell met his gaze. From millions. The air seemed to compress. Harry leaned back, crossing his arms again, this time not reflective, but defensive. So what's the accusation? That you should have stayed silent? Campbell shook his head. No. Then what? Harry pressed. That you should recognize the weight of your voice. Harry laughed once, short and humorless. That's rich coming from you. Campbell absorbed the jab without reaction. I've spent much of my career trying to reduce the damage of powerful voices, he said. Not always successfully. At least you admit that, Harry said. Do you? Campbell asked. The question hung between them. Harry's expression hardened. I don't regret telling my story. That's not what I asked, Campbell replied gently. Harry stared at him. Do you regret anything about how it was told? The studio seemed to shrink. Harry looked down briefly, then back up. No, he said firmly. Because if I hadn't spoken, the truth would have been buried. Campbell raised an eyebrow. Whose truth? My truth, Harry said sharply. The truth? Campbell leaned back. That's the moment narratives become dangerous. When personal truth declares itself universal. You're splitting hairs, Harry said. No, Campbell replied. I'm drawing lines. Harry leaned forward again, voice rising for the first time. You're implying I've done harm. I'm asking whether harm can exist without intent. Harry opened his mouth, then stopped. The answer didn't come immediately. That hesitation, brief but undeniable, shifted something in the room. Even the technicians behind the glass seemed to sense it. Campbell noticed. So let me ask you this, he continued. When people use your words to justify cynicism, division, or distrust, do you feel responsible? Harry's face flushed slightly. I can't control how people interpret things. Governments say that too, Campbell replied. Harry shot him a sharp look. That's not the same. Isn't it? Campbell asked. The silence that followed wasn't polite anymore. Harry uncrossed his arms, rubbing his palms together as if grounding himself. You came into this with an agenda. Yes, Campbell said, nodding once. Harry's eyes widened. So you admit it. And it's not what you think, Campbell replied. My agenda is simple. To understand whether walking away from power absolves someone from its consequences. I didn't walk away to be absolved, Harry said. I walked away to survive. Campbell held his gaze. And now you're asking the world to survive. Your story. Harry stood halfway, then sat back down with visible effort. The microphones caught his breath. I'm done being dissected, he said sharply. Campbell didn't argue. Instead, he asked one final question, quiet, precise, almost gentle. Then why do you keep coming back? Harry froze. Not angry. Not defensive. Just still. For the first time since the conversation began, he didn't answer at all. The silence stretched. And somewhere in that silence, the audience, watching from living rooms, phones, late-night screens, felt it too. This was no longer an interview. It was a moment of choice. The silence after Campbell's question didn't end naturally. It fractured. Prince Harry shifted again. This time rising halfway from his chair before sitting back down, as if his body had moved before his mind could catch up. His jaw clenched. For a brief second, he looked past the camera, toward the producer's desk, the studio lights, anything that wasn't the man across from him. Because people keep asking, Harry said finally. His voice was steady, but the muscles in his neck betrayed him. Campbell nodded slowly. Do they? He asked. Or do you keep answering? Harry exhaled sharply through his nose. That's unfair. Campbell raised a hand, not defensively, but to slow the pace. No accusations, he said. Just sequence. Harry leaned forward again, gripping the edge of the table. You're turning this into something it's not. This was supposed to be a conversation. It is, Campbell replied. Conversations become uncomfortable when they stop flattering us. Harry's eyes flashed. So you think I came here to be flattered? I think, Campbell said carefully, you came here expecting empathy. Harry laughed, a tight, brittle sound. And instead I got cross-examination. You got clarity, Campbell replied. That's often mistaken for hostility. Harry shook his head. You're doing what the media always does. Reframing. Undermining. No, Campbell said, leaning in slightly now. The media amplifies. I'm asking you to own the amplification. Harry's voice rose. I don't control the press. But you choose the platforms, Campbell said. And you choose the timing. Harry's palm came down on the table, once, controlled, but unmistakable. You have no idea what it's like, he said. Growing up inside that system. Being watched. Controlled. Campbell met his gaze. I know what it's like to watch systems implode, he said. Often because those inside them confuse exposure with resolution. Harry scoffed. So now I made things worse. Campbell didn't dodge it. Some wounds heal privately. He said. Others fester when they're turned into spectacle. My life is not a spectacle, Harry said. Then why does it require an audience? Campbell asked. The words landed like a slap. Harry pushed his chair back slightly. This is exactly why people don't trust commentators like you. You sit outside judging. And you sit inside a global platform insisting you're powerless, Campbell replied, his voice sharpening for the first time. That's not what I said. It's what you imply, Campbell said. Victimhood and authority are not opposites, Harry. They can coexist. Harry stood up fully now. This is crossing a line. Which line? Campbell asked. The personal one, or the public one? Harry pointed toward the camera. This ends now. Campbell glanced briefly toward the producer's booth, then back. Before you go, he said calmly, answer one thing. You've asked enough. Just one, Campbell said. And not for me. Harry hesitated, hands still on the chair. For the people watching, Campbell continued. If telling your story has become painful, why not stop telling it? Harry turned back, eyes blazing. Because silence protects the powerful. Campbell nodded. And speech protects the speaker. Harry opened his mouth to respond, but Campbell pressed gently, decisively. So which one are you protecting now? The studio felt unbearably quiet. Harry's breathing was audible in the microphone. That's it, he said. You don't get to define my motives. I didn't, Campbell replied. I asked you to. Harry shook his head, backing away from the table. This was a setup. No, Campbell said. It was an examination. Harry reached for the earpiece, fingers trembling slightly. I'm done. One last thing, Campbell said softly. And I won't follow up. Harry paused. When history looks back on this period of your life, Campbell asked, do you want to be remembered as someone who escaped the institution, or someone who never stopped fighting it from the outside? Harry froze. For a split second, something crossed his face, not anger, not indignation. Uncertainty. Then it vanished. That's not your call, Harry said coldly. The screen flickered. Audio spiked. And just before the connection cut, Campbell spoke one final sentence, quiet, unmistakable. History won't ask who was right, he said. Only who took responsibility. The feed went dark. Not dramatically. No music. No fade out. Just black. For half a second, no one spoke. Then the red live indicator blinked off. The studio didn't exhale. It froze. Alistair Campbell remained seated, hands folded loosely in front of him, eyes fixed on the empty monitor. No triumph. No irritation. Just stillness. A producer's voice crackled faintly through the headset. We've lost the connection. Campbell nodded once. Yes, he said quietly. We have. The camera was still recording now, not broadcasting, but capturing the aftermath. Campbell turned slightly toward it, choosing his words with care. That, he said, is what disengagement looks like when conversation becomes accountability. He paused. No insults were exchanged. No shouting. No ambush. Another pause. Just a question that couldn't be controlled. He leaned back. We'll leave it there. The producer cut the feed. Across the Atlantic, in a quiet room far from the studio lights, Prince Harry stood motionless, headphones still on, staring at his reflection in the darkened screen. The call had ended, but the words hadn't. He pulled the headset off and dropped it onto the desk harder than necessary. Someone off camera spoke his name. He didn't respond. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, quietly, almost to himself, he knew exactly what he was doing. But even as he said it, the certainty wasn't there. Because part of him knew something else. Campbell hadn't attacked him. He hadn't mocked him. He hadn't dismissed his pain. He had simply refused to carry it for him. Within minutes, clips began circulating. Short ones first. Why does it require an audience? Victimhood and authority can coexist. Which one are you protecting now? The comments split instantly. Some called it cruel. Others called it overdue. Supporters accused Campbell of arrogance. Critics accused Harry of running. But one thing was undeniable. People watched. Then they rewatched. Media outlets raced to frame it. Prince Harry storms off interview. Alistair Campbell pushes too far. When conversations turn into interrogations. But beneath the headlines, something more interesting happened. The tone shifted. Not outrage. Reflection. Viewers began asking different questions. Not about the monarchy. Not about betrayal. Not even about trauma. But about exit. When does telling your story become repeating it? When does explanation turn into performance? When does pain stop being truth, and start becoming identity? Later that evening, Campbell released a single statement. No thread. No follow-up interviews. Conversation requires courage from both sides. Walking away is a choice, but it is also an answer. Harry said nothing. No tweets. No statements. No clarifications. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. For the first time in a long while, the story didn't continue. It lingered, unfinished, unresolved, and maybe finally honest. If this made you uncomfortable, that's the point. If it made you think, that's the power of real dialogue. Like the video if you believe tough questions still matter. Subscribe for more stories where silence speaks louder than words. Because sometimes, the moment someone walks away is when the real story begins.